Shalom, everyone. This week's parasha is Parashat Vayeshev. Our parasha is comprised of 112 Pesukim. And in an amazing statistical anomaly, we find that all but 8 of the Pesukim in this parasha begin with the very same letter, the letter Vav. This is something that is extremely unusual. In fact, no other parasha in the entire Torah has all of, or most of its Pesukim beginning with the same letter. And there is only one other book in Tanakh that does so. All but 8 beginning with the letter Vav? Why? What is the idea behind and? I believe what the Torah is trying to convey is a certain perception about the way that we need to live. You see, this week's parasha begins the story of Yosef, his descent to Mitzrayim, and how that ultimately leads to the future of the history of the Jewish people. What we find is that there actually are no supernatural events in the parasha. No miracles falling down from heaven. No supernatural lifting of rocks that are amazing. No ladders reaching up to the sky. Nothing of that sort is in this week's parasha. In fact, everything could be passed off as simply ordinary. But by the pasuk, by each pasuk, beginning with the letter Vav, 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 it makes the point that each pasuk is connected to the previous. Even though we might be tempted to think that the story is a series of just happenstance events, nevertheless, by beginning with the letter Vav, each pasuk, it says, and because the previous pasuk happened, the next pasuk happened. And because that happened, the next thing happened as well. And because that happened, the next thing happened as well. And this means to teach us a very important concept. And that is, in our lives, we can tend to think, we can think that each event that takes place in our life stands on itself. But what we have to realize is that every single event in our lives is a chain reaction connection to that which came before it and is going to connect with that which happens after. And you may ask, why are there 8 Pesukim that don't have the letter Vav? Could it be that this week's parasha always is the parasha that precedes or falls upon the holiday of Hanukkah? And the number 8 there is obviously symbolic as well. And in fact, if we look at Hanukkah as well, the story of Hanukkah could easily have been dismissed as being something that was a natural occurrence. Although the few beat the many, who's not to say it was because the few were stronger or because the few were smarter? But we know that the real story is that the few were aided by Kadosh Baruch Hu. And even if they were wiser and more Shomrei Mitzvot, it was that they had HaKadosh Baruch Hu behind them. So we have to remember that in our lives, we're going to see many events that we could easily say, that's just the way things happen. We have to remember that this week's parasha is coming to teach us every single thing is connected, and it all starts and ends with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom and Chanukah Sameach.